The champagne glass trembled in my hand as I stared at the security app notification on my phone. Motion detected at Sandpiper Cove. 3 years of marriage to Daniel, and somehow I never expected to see him carrying another woman across the threshold of our beach house, a place we'd promised to visit together when his busy schedule finally cleared up. But there he was, his dark hair tousled by the ocean breeze, laughing as he carried a blonde woman I'd never seen before through our front door. Our door. The one with the handcrafted sea glass mosaic I'd installed myself last summer while he was working late at his investment firm. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Rebecca Mitchell. Most people call me Becca. Until 3 weeks ago, I was just another marketing executive with a corner office in downtown Seattle, a husband who worked too much, and a passion for watercolor painting that I never seemed to find enough time for. Now I'm the woman whose entire life unraveled with a single phone notification. "Everything okay, Becca?" Lisa, my assistant, asked as she placed a stack of campaign drafts on my desk. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I quickly locked my phone. The image of Daniel and his mystery woman burned into my retinas. "Fine," I managed, though my voice sounded foreign even to me. "Just unexpected news." Lisa lingered, concerned. We'd worked together for 5 years, long enough for her to sense when something was wrong. But this wasn't something I could share. Not yet. Not until I understood it myself. "Actually," I said, gathering my purse and laptop, "I need to take the rest of the day. Family emergency. Can you reschedule my calls?" 20 minutes later, I sat in my car in the underground parking garage, still unable to drive, still staring at the security footage. I had installed the cameras myself last Thanksgiving when we'd had a break-in at the beach house. Daniel had laughed at my paranoia, saying nobody would target a property in sleepy Seaside Cove, 3 hours from Seattle. Now I understood why he'd been so dismissive. I forced myself to watch the footage again. Daniel's familiar Audi pulling into the driveway. Him stepping out, checking his phone, then opening the passenger door. The blonde woman emerging, her sundress fluttering in the coastal breeze. Their kiss, not a polite peck, but the kind of kiss that told a story. Then Daniel lifting her, both laughing as he carried her inside. Our beach house, the one we'd bought with my inheritance after my grandmother passed, the one I'd insisted we put solely in my name for tax purposes, since Daniel's business dealings were already complex enough. The one he'd visited to check on things at least twice a month while I stayed behind to work. I finally started the car, hands shaking so badly I had to grip the steering wheel to steady them. Not to go home. I couldn't face our empty penthouse knowing what I now knew. Instead, I pointed my car north toward Seaside Cove. 3 hours would give me plenty of time to think, to plan, to decide how to confront the man who had just destroyed everything I thought I knew about our life together. My phone rang as I hit the highway. Daniel. For the first time in our relationship, I declined his call. Then another. Then a text. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." The familiar lie hit differently now. How many late nights had actually been spent with her? How long had this been happening? The questions swirled in my head as miles of evergreen forest blurred past my windows. I called the one person I trusted implicitly. "Zoe," I said when my best friend since college answered. "I need your help." "Becca? What's wrong? You sound terrible." "Daniel's cheating." The words came out flat, emotionless. "I caught him on the security camera taking some woman into our beach house." Zoe's gasp was audible. "That worthless piece of... Where are you now?" "Driving to Seaside." "Alone?" "No, Becca, pull over. I'm coming to get you. You shouldn't confront him by yourself." "I'm already halfway there," I said, checking the mile markers. "But I need you to do something else for me." Remember my lawyer? Martin Green? The one who handled Grandma's estate? Can you call him? Tell him I need to meet tomorrow. Lawyer? Becca, slow down. What are you planning? I spotted a sign for a scenic outlook and pulled over, suddenly aware I'd been driving too fast. I don't know yet, but Daniel doesn't realize the beach house is only in my name. I want to understand my options before I confront him. The line was quiet for a moment. Then Zoe's voice, harder now. Good, that's smart. Call me when you get there, okay? Promise me you won't do anything rash. I promised, then sat watching the sun begin its descent over the distant ocean. The pain was giving way to something else. A cold, clarifying anger that made my next step suddenly obvious. Daniel had betrayed me, but he'd also made a mistake, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. At the small grocery in Seaside Cove, I filled a basket with essentials. As I waited in line, I spotted a couple, probably in their 60s, smiling at each other over a shared joke. The woman caught me watching, and her smile shifted to concern. You all right, dear? You look a bit peaked. I realized I'd been staring. I'm fine, I said automatically, then surprising myself. Actually, no, I just found out my husband's been unfaithful. The woman's face softened with understanding, while her husband looked away uncomfortably. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. She patted my arm. Remember this. Whatever happens next is about who you are, not who he failed to be. Her words stayed with me as I drove the final stretch to my beach house. The sky had darkened to twilight, and as I turned onto the private road leading to the property, I killed my headlights. The neighborhood was quiet, most of the houses dark this time of year. Ours, 3 lots from the end with the distinctive blue shutters, glowed with light. Daniel's Audi sat in the driveway beside an unfamiliar red convertible. I parked a few houses away and approached on foot, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the front windows, I could see movement. Daniel in the kitchen, opening wine. The blonde woman was out of sight. I didn't need to see more. Not tonight. Instead, I returned to my car and drove to the small inn at the edge of town, checking in under my maiden name. In my room, I finally let myself cry. Not just for the betrayal, but for the years wasted on a man who could so easily discard everything we'd built. Morning found me dry-eyed and resolute. After a call to the office claiming a family emergency, I called Martin Green. His secretary put me through immediately. Rebecca. Martin's familiar voice was warm with concern. Zoe called. I'm so sorry about what's happening. I checked your file this morning. The beach house is indeed solely in your name. We made sure of that during the transaction. Good, I said, watching the waves through my window. I need to know my rights. If I wanted to, say, change the locks. It's your property, Martin confirmed. You can do whatever you wish with it. However, as it was acquired during your marriage, Daniel might try to claim a portion in a divorce. But he has no right to use it without your permission, especially not to. Well, for this kind of activity. And if there were other people on the property without my knowledge, they would legally be trespassing. I thanked him and promised to come in later for a formal consultation. Then I made one more call to a locksmith. By noon, I was parked down the street again, watching Daniel and the woman leave in his Audi. Beach bags and what looked like a picnic basket suggested they'd be gone a while. Perfect. The locksmith arrived 30 minutes later. All of them? He asked when I told him I wanted every lock changed. Every single one, I confirmed, and I'd like the security system recoded as well. It took nearly 2 hours, during which I wandered through my own house like a detective, looking for evidence of how long this had been happening. The guest bathroom held her toiletries, expensive brands arranged neatly beside Daniel's things. The closet in the master bedroom contained several of her dresses, hanging beside Daniel's carefully pressed shirts. And on the nightstand, her side, apparently, a framed photo of the two of them on a yacht I'd never seen, looking tanned and happy. I picked up the photo, studying the woman's face. Young, mid-20s maybe, at least a decade younger than my 38 years. Beautiful in that effortless way that had always intimidated me, and familiar, somehow. Then it hit me. Alexis Ward, Daniel's executive assistant, the one he'd hired last year, praising her efficiency and dedication, the one who'd sent me flowers on my birthday, signed with a note about how much Daniel talked about me. The irony was almost too much. As the locksmith finished, I paid him generously and asked for his discretion. Then I settled in to wait, moving my car to the garage where it wouldn't be seen from the road. I made myself a cup of tea in my own kitchen and sat at the dining table facing the front door, the property deed spread out before me. The sun was setting when I heard the car in the driveway. Laughter, the slam of car doors, footsteps on the porch. Then the sound of a key in the lock, a key that no longer worked. "That's weird," Daniel's voice came through the door. "It's not turning." More jiggling of the handle, then knocking. Then Daniel's voice again, louder. "Hello? Is someone there?" I stayed silent, watching through the security app as confusion turned to frustration on my husband's face. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Maybe they changed the locks for security?" Alexis suggested. "Did the property management company say anything?" "We don't have property management," Daniel muttered, pulling out his phone. "Let me call Becca. Maybe there was a break-in or something." My phone buzzed in front of me. I declined the call. "She's not answering," I heard him say. "Let's check the back door." I listened as they made their way around the house, trying each entrance. When Daniel began pounding on the back door, I finally stood, walking calmly to answer it. The look on his face when I opened the door was something I will treasure forever. Shock, confusion, guilt, all flashing across his features in rapid succession. "Becca?" he managed, his face draining of color. How did you?" "Hello, Daniel," I said, surprised by the steadiness of my voice. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch for eternity. Behind Daniel, Alexis stood frozen, her eyes wide with panic. She was even prettier up close, the kind of woman who turned heads when she entered a room. "Rebecca," Daniel finally found his voice. I can explain." "Really?" I stepped back, allowing them to enter. No point having this conversation where neighbors might hear. "Please do explain why you've moved your girlfriend into our beach house without telling me." They stepped inside, exchanging nervous glances. Alexis clutched her beach bag like a shield. "Mrs. Mitchell," she began, "I'm so sorry." "Alexis, don't," Daniel cut her off. Then to me, "It's not what you think." I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Really? Because I think you've been sleeping with your assistant and using our beach house as your personal love nest. Am I wrong?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. Now it just seemed calculated, part of the performance he'd apparently been putting on for years. "Let's all sit down," he suggested, moving toward the living room as if he still had any right to offer hospitality in my house. "No," I said firmly. "Actually, I need you both to leave." Daniel blinked. "Leave? Becca, be reasonable. We need to talk about this." "Like you talked to me about bringing her here? About betraying our marriage? About making me look like a fool?" Each question came out sharper than the last, my composure beginning to crack. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, reaching for me. I stepped back. "Don't. and don't pretend this was some momentary lapse in judgment. Her things are in the bathroom. Her clothes are in our closet. There's a picture of you two by the bed. How long has this been going on? Daniel glanced at Alexis, who looked like she wanted to disappear. 8 months, he admitted quietly. 8 months. While I was working overtime, missing dinners to attend his firm's events, planning our future. 8 months of lies. I want you both out, I repeated. Now. Becca, this is ridiculous. This is my house too. Actually, I interrupted, it isn't. I walked back to the dining table and picked up the deed. The beach house is solely in my name. Legally, you have no right to be here without my permission, which I'm now revoking. Daniel's expression changed then, his conciliatory tone hardening. That's a technicality. We bought it during our marriage with joint funds. With my inheritance, I corrected, which you insisted would be safer kept separate from our other assets because of your business liabilities. Your words, Daniel. He stared at me, speechless. For once. Behind him, Alexis shifted uncomfortably. I think I should go, she murmured. Yes, I agreed. You should. Both of you. You have 30 minutes to collect your things. Or what? Daniel challenged, his embarrassment turning to anger. Or I call the police and report you for trespassing. You wouldn't. I held up my phone. Try me. For a moment, I thought he might argue further. Instead, he stalked toward the bedroom, calling over his shoulder. This isn't over, Rebecca. While they gathered their belongings, I sat at the dining table again, outwardly calm though my insides were churning. Through the bedroom doorway, I could hear them whispering urgently, Daniel's low, angry murmurs and Alexis's softer responses. When they emerged, Alexis's eyes were red-rimmed. Daniel carried 2 hastily packed bags. You've changed, he said accusingly at the door. The Becca I married would never have done something like this. The Daniel I married wouldn't have cheated, I replied. Seems we were both wrong about each other. After they left, I methodically went through the house, gathering any remaining traces of their presence. Her forgotten scarf in the coat closet, a bottle of his cologne in the bathroom, the photograph, which I smashed in the kitchen sink, taking grim satisfaction in the breaking glass. Then I opened a bottle of wine, the expensive Cabernet that Daniel had apparently brought for their romantic getaway, and called Zoe. I did it, I said when she answered. I threw them out. Them? Wait, who was with him? Alexis, his assistant. Zoe's string of colorful expletives matched my mood perfectly. Are you okay? She asked finally. No, I admitted, but I will be. Over the next 2 days, I ignored the barrage of calls and texts from Daniel. Instead, I met with Martin, who helped me understand my options. I gathered financial records, documenting how my inheritance had funded the beach house purchase. I changed the passwords on our joint accounts and credit cards. And I did something else. I began investigating just how deep Daniel's deception went. The thing about being married to someone for years is that you know their patterns. Daniel's phone password was the same combination he used for everything. His birth year followed by his college jersey number. His email auto-saved on our home computer. His important documents were all neatly labeled in his home office filing cabinet. What I found confirmed what I had begun to suspect. The beach house wasn't his only betrayal. Bank statements showed regular withdrawals, cash that never appeared in our joint expenses. Credit card bills listed jewelry purchases I'd never received, dinners at restaurants we'd never visited together, weekend getaways during business trips. But the most damning evidence came from Daniel's own email. Messages between him and Alexis dating back over a year. Plans to leave me once his newest investment venture paid off. Discussions about which of our assets he could secure in a divorce. And worse, emails to his lawyer asking about the beach house specifically. about whether the fact that only my name was on the deed could be challenged. Given that Mitchell deliberately kept the property in Rebecca's name to shield it from potential business liabilities, there may be grounds to claim he never intended to relinquish ownership rights. I forwarded everything to Martin, hands shaking with a mixture of rage and vindication. Then I did something I'd never done before. I called in a favor from someone I'd helped years ago. James Chen had been a client when I first started in marketing. I'd helped him rebrand his small cybersecurity firm, working extra hours without charging him when his budget ran tight. Now his company was one of the most respected in Seattle. I need to know if someone has been accessing my accounts, I explained, after he agreed to help. And I need it done quietly. Within 24 hours, James confirmed what I had feared. Daniel had been monitoring my emails, my location through a tracking app I hadn't known was on my phone, even my search history. He'd been watching me while I remained oblivious. The final piece fell into place when I visited our bank and discovered Daniel had opened a separate account months ago, gradually transferring funds from our joint savings. The account showed regular payments to a real estate attorney specializing in marital property disputes. He'd been planning to leave me, but only after securing as many of our assets as possible, including my beach house. Armed with this knowledge, I made one final call to Carol, the senior partner at Daniel's firm, and a woman I'd always admired. "I'm sorry to involve you in personal matters," I began when she came on the line. "Nonsense," she replied briskly. "Daniel works for me. If he's been conducting inappropriate relationships with staff and using company time and resources to do so, that's very much my business." I sent her the emails I'd found. Within an hour, she called back. "Rebecca," she said, her voice gentler. "Now, I want you to know that this behavior violates several firm policies. We'll be conducting a full investigation, and I've placed Daniel on immediate leave, Alexis as well." I thanked her, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. The investigation was complete. Now it was time for the confrontation. 7 days after discovering Daniel's betrayal, I sat in our Seattle penthouse, waiting. The table was set for two: crystal glasses, fine china, candles, a parody of the romantic dinners we'd shared when our marriage was still real. Or when I thought it was real. I'd finally answered one of Daniel's calls that morning. "We need to talk," I'd said, cutting off his practiced apology. "Dinner, tonight, 8 o'clock, our place." He'd agreed immediately, probably thinking this was his opportunity to manage the situation, to explain away his actions and minimize the consequences. Daniel had always been confident in his ability to talk his way out of trouble. It was what made him a successful investment advisor. People trusted him, believed in him, even when they shouldn't. At precisely 8:05, Daniel was always strategically 5 minutes late. I heard his key in the door. He entered cautiously, holding a bouquet of my favorite lilies. "Becca," he said, taking in the candlelit setting. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" I gestured to the chair across from me. "Sit down, Daniel." He placed the flowers on the sideboard and joined me, his expression a careful mixture of contrition and hope. He'd dressed carefully. The blue shirt I'd once said brought out his eyes. No tie, casual but put together. The Daniel charm offensive was in full effect. "I've missed you," he began. "These past days have been hell. I know what I did was unforgivable, but—" "Let me stop you there," I interrupted, pouring wine into both our glasses. "This isn't a reconciliation dinner." His smile faltered. "Then what is it?" "Clarity," I said, raising my glass, "to finally seeing things as they really are." He hesitated, then clinked his glass against mine. "Becca, please, just let me explain." "Actually," I set down my glass, "I'd like to explain first. I've learned some interesting things this week." I placed a folder on the table between us. Daniel eyed it warily. What's this? Open it. Inside were printouts of everything I'd discovered. The bank statements, credit card bills, emails with Alexis, communications with his lawyer about my beach house. His face paled as he flipped through the pages. How did you get these? You're not the only one who knows how to investigate, Daniel. Though I had legitimate access to our accounts, unlike you monitoring my emails and tracking my location without my knowledge. He closed the folder, his charm evaporating. This is an invasion of privacy. I laughed. That's rich coming from you. But let's not argue semantics. Let's talk about your plans. To leave me once your new investment paid off. To challenge my ownership of the beach house. To take as much as you could on your way out. Those were just contingency plans, he stammered. I never intended to get caught, I finished for him, or to have your girlfriend thrown out of my property, or to have Carol place you both on leave pending an ethics investigation. That got his attention. You went to Carol? Of course I did. Sleeping with your assistant, using company time and resources to conduct your affair. Did you think there wouldn't be professional consequences? Daniel's jaw tightened, the mask of contrition completely gone now. You had no right. No, Daniel, you had no right. To betray our marriage, to plot against me, to treat me like I was too stupid to ever discover what you were doing. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the Seattle skyline. What do you want, Rebecca? Money? The penthouse? Is this some kind of shakedown? I want you to understand exactly what your actions have cost you. I remained seated, refusing to match his agitation with my own. I've filed for divorce. The papers are being delivered to your hotel tomorrow. Fine, he snapped. We'll let the lawyers sort it out. They already have, in a way, I continued. Martin has filed a documented claim regarding the beach house, establishing clear evidence that it was purchased with my separate property, my inheritance, and deliberately kept in my name only. Your own emails to your lawyer undermine any claim you might make on it. Daniel turned back to me, eyes narrowed. There's more to marriage than property deeds. Like fidelity? Honesty? Respect? I stood now, my calm beginning to crack. You've spent nearly a year plotting to leave me while extracting maximum financial benefit. You've lied to my face every day. You moved your mistress into my property. Our property, he corrected automatically. No, Daniel, mine. Which you'd know if you'd bothered to read the deed before using my beach house as your love nest. I picked up the folder, adding, Carol has requested you turn in your company laptop tomorrow. Given what I found in your personal email, I imagine the firm will find plenty of evidence that you've been misusing company resources. His face flushed with anger. You're deliberately trying to destroy my career. No, I replied. You did that yourself when you decided to sleep with your assistant and plan your exit strategy on company time. A heavy silence fell between us. Daniel returned to the table but remained standing, his knuckles white as he gripped the back of his chair. So that's it? He finally asked. 9 years of marriage, and you're just walking away? That's exactly what you were planning to do to me, I reminded him. The difference is, I'm not going to drain our accounts first or try to steal your property. I never stole anything from you. Only my trust, my time, my belief in our future together. My voice finally broke on the last word, the pain I'd been suppressing rising to the surface. Daniel's expression softened, sensing a weakness he could exploit. Becca, he said gently, coming around the table toward me. I made a terrible mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, rebuild what we had. I stepped back. What we had was a lie. Not all of it, he insisted. We had good years, Becca. You know we did. For a moment, doubt crept in. There had been good times, vacations spent laughing, quiet evenings reading together, celebrations of each other's successes. Had it all been false? Then I remembered the emails, his calculated plans, the photo of him and Alexis by our bed. Whatever we'd had was gone, destroyed by his choices. "I want you out of the penthouse by the end of the week," I said. "I'll be staying at the beach house until then." "And if I refuse?" Challenge sparked in his eyes. I pushed the folder toward him. "Then these go to the managing partners at your firm. All of them, not just Carol. And to your clients, especially the Hendersons, who just entrusted you with their retirement fund. Do you think they'd keep you as their advisor if they knew how willing you are to betray those who trust you?" He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. "When did you become so cold?" "When I realized what I was married to." I gathered my purse and the overnight bag I'd packed earlier. The divorce papers include a fair division of assets, essentially, what we each brought into the marriage plus an equal split of what we earned together. Sign them, and we can both move on quickly. At the door, I paused, turning back to find him still standing by the table, looking suddenly lost. For the first time, I saw Daniel clearly, not the charming, confident man I'd married, but someone weak, selfish, grasping. "You know what the irony is?" I asked softly. "If you'd just asked for a divorce when you fell for Alexis, I would have given you one. I might even have let you use the beach house sometimes, but you couldn't just be honest, could you? You had to try to win, to take what wasn't yours, to leave me with as little as possible. Becca." "Goodbye, Daniel." As I closed the door, behind me I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction or vindication, but freedom. The weight of his betrayal was still there, but it no longer seemed crushing. I could breathe again. 2 days after my confrontation with Daniel, I was sorting through old photographs at the beach house when my phone rang. Zoe's name flashed on the screen. "Have you seen it?" she asked without preamble. "Seen what?" "Check your email, now." I opened my laptop, finding a new message from Zoe with a forwarded email. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Important notice to clients of Mitchell Advisory Services." The message was from Daniel's firm, a carefully worded announcement, stating that Daniel Mitchell was no longer associated with the company following evidence of improper conduct. It assured clients that their accounts would be transitioned to other advisors. "He's been fired," I murmured. "Yes, and from what I hear, it's worse than that. Carol found evidence he was mismanaging client funds, small amounts, but enough, to trigger an SEC investigation." I sat back, stunned. That's not what I wanted. "I know," Zoe said gently. "But Becca, this isn't on you. Whatever Carol found goes beyond his affair with Alexis." Before I could respond, a text came through from an unknown number. "You ruined everything. Hope you're happy now. Alexis." "I need to call you back," I told Zoe. Minutes later, my phone rang again. Martin. "Rebecca." He sounded concerned. "Daniel's attorney just contacted me. He's contesting the divorce terms and making some serious accusations against you." "What accusations?" "He's claiming you hacked his email, stole company information, and deliberately sabotaged his career. He's threatening criminal charges unless you agree to his terms." Fear coiled in my stomach. "What terms?" "Half of everything, including the beach house, plus damages for lost income." I thought about the emails I'd accessed, the information I'd gathered. Had I crossed a legal line in my investigation? "Martin, did I—" "Don't say anything more on the phone," he interrupted. "Meet me at my office in an hour." The drive to Seattle passed in a blur of anxiety. At Martin's office, his expression was grave as he showed me Daniel's legal threat. "The good news is his position is weak," Martin explained. "Yes, you accessed his accounts, but as his spouse with passwords he shared with you, it's legally gray at best. The information you provided to his firm was factual and relevant to potential misconduct. And the beach house? Still solidly yours. But Rebecca," Martin leaned forward, Daniel is desperate. Desperate people make dangerous decisions. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. A local business publication had published a story about Daniel's dismissal, citing anonymous sources claiming he'd misused client funds for personal expenses, including maintaining a property for extramarital activities. The story was going public. I left Martin's office with a plan to counter Daniel's threats, but the knot of anxiety remained. Outside, rain poured down, matching my darkening mood. I was so distracted I almost didn't notice the figure leaning against my car until I was a few feet away. Alexis. She straightened when she saw me, rain plastering her blonde hair to her face. "We need to talk." Part of me wanted to walk away, but curiosity won out. "About what?" "About Daniel, about what you've done to him." Her voice cracked. "They're investigating him for fraud, Rebecca. His career is over." "That wasn't my intention," I said honestly. "I just wanted the truth about the beach house, about your relationship." "Well, congratulations," she spat. "Now he's facing potential criminal charges and I've lost my job too." I studied her, young, frightened, angry. "Did you know?" I asked. "About the financial irregularities?" She looked away. "I knew he sometimes blurred lines, but he said everyone in finance does it. Small personal expenses on client accounts, adjusting numbers to meet projections. Nothing serious, but it was serious enough to get him fired." Alexis wiped rain from her face. "He said it was your fault, that you hacked his files, planted evidence. Is that what you believe?" She hesitated, uncertainty crossing her features. "I don't know what to believe anymore. He told me you were cold, career-obsessed, that you two were practically separated, already." "We weren't," I said simply. "I had no idea there were problems until I saw you with him at the beach house." Alexis leaned back against my car, suddenly looking exhausted. "He told me the beach house was his private property, that you never used it." She laughed bitterly. I guess I wanted to believe him. The rain intensified, but neither of us moved. "He wants me to testify against you," she finally said. "To say you've been unstable, vindictive, that you threatened me." My heart raced. "And will you?" "I don't know." She met my eyes directly. "Would you believe me if I said I didn't know? About you at first? That by the time I understood he was still very much married, I was already in love with him?" "I might," I admitted. "Daniel can be persuasive." "He is," she agreed. "And now he's persuading me that if I don't help him destroy you, my career is over too." She handed me her phone, showing me texts from Daniel, increasingly desperate, increasingly threatening. "When did these start?" I asked, scrolling through messages that fluctuated between love declarations and veiled threats. "After you threw us out of the beach house. He's spinning out, Rebecca. I'm actually scared of him." I handed back her phone, making a decision. "Come with me." "Where?" "To the one person who might be able to help us both." An hour later, we sat in Carol's elegant office, watching her face as she reviewed the texts Alexis had shared. "This is consistent with what we found in our investigation," Carol said finally. "Daniel's behavior has become increasingly erratic. The financial irregularities went back almost a year, small at first, then larger. Client funds used for personal expenses, including this." She slid a document across her desk. It was a receipt for a diamond bracelet, purchased on the same corporate card used for client dinners, but coded as a business expense. The date matched one of the weekend trips to the beach house I'd discovered. "He bought that for me," Alexis said quietly. "Said it was a bonus for working extra hours." Carol's expression hardened. "It was purchased with funds from the Henderson account. Funds that were supposed to be invested in their retirement portfolio." My stomach turned. The Hendersons were in their 70s. The rain had finally stopped by the time Alexis and I left Carol's office. The late afternoon sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the wet pavement. We stood awkwardly. Beside my car, two women connected by the same betrayal but otherwise strangers. "What happens now?" Alexis asked, hugging herself against the chill. "Carol submits everything to the investigators," I replied. "The texts, the financial records, all of it." "And Daniel?" I shrugged, a gesture that belied the turmoil inside me. "That depends on how serious the financial mismanagement was. Best case, he loses his professional licenses. Worst case. Criminal charges," she finished, her voice barely audible. We fell silent, each lost in our own thoughts. Despite everything, I felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for Alexis. She'd been manipulated too, drawn into Daniel's web of lies and deception. "I should go," she said finally. "Thank you for listening, for not hating me." "I did hate you," I admitted. "For about 24 hours. Then I realized you weren't the real problem." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "No, we just fell for the same convincing liar." She hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, he talked about you. Said you were brilliant, driven, that he didn't deserve you." "Turns out that was the one honest thing he said," I replied, surprised to find I could almost joke about it. As Alexis walked away, my phone rang. Zoe again. "Where are you?" she demanded. "I've been trying to reach you for hours." "I was with Carol," I explained, getting into my car. "And with Alexis, actually." "Alexis? Daniel's Alexis? Why on earth?" "It's a long story," I interrupted. "One that ends with her turning over evidence against him. But Zoe? There's more going on than just the affair. Daniel's in serious trouble. Financial irregularities, possible fraud." Zoe was silent for a moment. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Part of me feels vindicated, but another part." I trailed off, unable to articulate the complicated mix of emotions churning inside me. "Where are you going now?" she asked. I started the car, considering. "Back to the beach house. I need space to think." "You shouldn't be alone, not with everything that's happening. I'm coming with you." I nearly protested, then realized how desperately I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts. "Actually, that would be great. Can you meet me there in a few hours?" Already packing a bag. "And Becca? You did the right thing." I wasn't so sure, but I thanked her anyway. The drive back to Seaside Cove was quieter this time. No storm of emotions driving me forward, just a strange, hollow calm. The revelations of the past few days had changed everything. Daniel wasn't just an unfaithful husband. He was potentially a criminal. And I had played a role in exposing him. Actions I couldn't undo even if I wanted to. As I rounded the final curve before the beach house, I noticed a car in my driveway. Daniel's Audi. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, a wave of anxiety washing over me. What was he doing here? How had he gotten in after the locks were changed? I pulled up behind his car and sat for a moment, gathering my courage. Then I called Martin. "Daniel's at the beach house," I said when he answered. "Rebecca, don't engage." "With him," Martin warned. "Not alone. Not after those threats. Call the police." "I will if necessary," I promised. "But I want to know why he's here first." Despite Martin's continued objections, I ended the call and approached my own front door cautiously. Through the window, I could see movement in the living room. Taking a deep breath, I used my key to enter. Daniel was standing by the fireplace, a glass of what looked like bourbon in his hand. He turned when he heard the door, and the expression on his face made me stop in my tracks. Not anger or defiance, but something closer to despair. "How did you get in?" I asked, remaining near the door. He held up a key. "The patio door. You changed the front locks, but forgot about the sliding door in the back." I silently cursed myself for the oversight. "What are you doing here, Daniel?" He took a sip from his glass, wincing slightly. "Saying goodbye, I suppose. To this place. To what's left of my life. To you." Something in his tone sent warning signals through me. "What does that mean?" "It means it's over, Rebecca. All of it." He gestured around vaguely. "The firm filed a formal complaint with the SEC this morning. My accounts are frozen. My attorneys abandoned me. Conflict of interest, apparently." "Daniel, did you know what would happen?" he asked, his voice unnervingly calm. "When you went to Carol, when you showed her those emails, did you understand what you were setting in motion?" I stood my ground. "I knew there would be consequences for your affair with Alexis, yes. The financial issues, that was Carol's. Discovery, not mine." He laughed, a hollow sound. "Sure it was. Just like it was a coincidence that you found our emails, our plans." He drained his glass, setting it down with deliberate care. "You know what the worst part is? I actually convinced myself I loved her, that she was worth risking everything. And was she? I couldn't help asking." Daniel's gaze drifted to the ocean visible through the windows. She turned over her phone to Carol. "All our texts, our conversations. She's cooperating fully with the investigation." "I know, I was there." His head snapped toward me. "You were what?" "I took her to Carol's office," I explained. "After she approached me, after she told me you wanted her to testify against me." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "So you turned her against me too?" "Daniel, you sent her threatening texts. You involved her in financial improprieties. You did that, not me." He moved toward me then, and I instinctively reached for my phone in my pocket. "If you come any closer, I'm calling the police." Warned. He stopped, raising his hands in mock surrender. "Always in control, aren't you, Rebecca? Always so perfect, so righteous." "I never claimed to be perfect." "No, but you judged me," he spat, the calm facade cracking. "From your moral high ground, you decided I deserved to lose everything because I made a mistake." "A mistake?" I echoed in disbelief. "You carried on an affair for nearly a year. You diverted client funds for personal use. You plotted to take my property. Those aren't mistakes, Daniel. They're choices. Deliberate, calculated choices." "And now you've made your choice too," he said, his voice dropping dangerously low. "You chose to destroy me." I took a step back, closer to the door. "I chose to stand up for myself. There's a difference." Daniel moved to the bar cart and poured another drink, his hand visibly trembling. "Do you know what happens to investment? Advisors accused of fraud, Rebecca? Best case scenario, I never work in finance again. Worst case, federal prison." "I'm sorry it's come to this," I said, and I was surprised to find I meant it. Despite everything, I took no joy in his downfall. "Are you?" He turned to face me, his eyes red-rimmed. "Do you remember when we found this place? How we walked on the beach and talked about growing old here?" The memory hit unexpectedly. A sunny day 3 years ago, Daniel and I strolling along the shore, planning a future that now seemed like a cruel joke. "I remember," I said quietly. "I did love you then," he insisted. "Whatever you believe now, that was real." I studied him, trying to reconcile the man before me with the husband I thought I'd known. Maybe it was. But love isn't just feelings, Daniel. It's actions. It's choices. And your choices destroyed what we had long before I discovered your affair. He flinched as if I'd struck him. "So that's it? 9 years together and you just write me off?" "You wrote us off first," I reminded him. "The moment you decided to betray our marriage, to plan your exit strategy, to move another woman into my house." "Our house," he corrected automatically. "No," I said firmly. "My house, which you need to leave, now." For a moment, I thought he might refuse, might escalate the confrontation further. Then his shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. "You win, Rebecca," he said, setting down his glass. "You get the beach house, your reputation, your perfect life. I lose everything. I hope it was worth it." As he brushed past me toward the door, I caught his arm. "This wasn't about winning, Daniel. It was about truth, about consequences." He pulled away from my touch. "Save the moral lessons, Rebecca. We're beyond that now." At the door, he paused for one final look around the beach house, his expression impossible to read. Then, without another word, he was gone. I locked the door behind him, sinking onto the nearest chair as the adrenaline drained from my body. My hands shook as I called Zoe to warn her that Daniel had just left, then Martin to update him on the confrontation. "Are you sure you're okay?" Martin asked after I'd recounted the conversation. "He sounds unstable. Maybe you should come back to the city until things settle down." "I'm fine," I insisted, though my heart was still racing. "He's gone, and honestly, I think he's more defeated than dangerous." After we hung up, I wandered through the house, checking that all doors and windows were secure. In the kitchen, I found Daniel's empty glass on the counter and automatically moved to wash it. As I rinsed away the last traces of his presence, I was struck by how ordinary the gesture was, cleaning up after him, as I had done countless times during our marriage. But this was different. This was final. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway startled me from my thoughts. Through the window, I saw Zoe emerging from her SUV, overnight bag in hand. Relief washed over me at the sight of my friend. A reminder that despite everything, I wasn't alone. I let her in, accepting her fierce hug with gratitude. "You look awful," she declared, holding me at arm's length. "Thanks." I managed a weak smile. "It's been a day." "Martin called me," she explained, following me to the living room. "Told me about Daniel showing up here. I broke every speed limit getting to you." "You didn't have to do that." "Of course I did." She dropped her bag and headed for the kitchen. "Now I'm making us both a drink, and you're going to tell me everything." Over glasses of wine, I recounted the day's events, Alexis's approach, the meeting with Carol, Daniel's appearance at the beach house. Zoe listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "I don't like any of this," she said when I finished. "Daniel's cornered, and cornered animals are dangerous." "He's not an animal," I protested. "He's just lost." Zoe studied me over the rim of her glass. "You still care about him?" It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Not in the way you mean, but 9 years together doesn't just disappear. Overnight, no matter what he did." She nodded, understanding. "What happens now?" "Now." I sighed, looking around the beach house that had become the unlikely epicenter of my marriage's collapse. Now I rebuild. Figure out who I am without Daniel, without the life we constructed together. "And the beach house?" I smiled slightly. "The beach house stays mine." Later that night, as Zoe slept in the guest room, I stood on the deck watching the moonlight play across the waves. The air was crisp with the promise of autumn, carrying the scent of salt and pine. I wrapped my grandmother's old cardigan tighter around myself, thinking about her wisdom, her strength. She'd left me this inheritance with the hope that it would bring me joy. Instead, it had brought truth. Painful, necessary truth. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "I'm sorry for my part in all of this. Be careful. He's not done yet. A." Alexis's warning sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with the night air. What did she mean? What else could Daniel possibly do? I considered calling Martin again, or even the police. But what would I say? That my husband's mistress sent a cryptic text? That didn't exactly warrant emergency response. Instead, I took a photo of the message and sent it to both Martin and Zoe with the caption, "Just received this from Alexis. Thoughts?" Zoe responded immediately, despite the late hour. "Stay where you are. Doors locked. I'm right here." Martin's response came a few minutes later. "Have forwarded to my contact at Seattle PD. They'll increase patrols in your area. Tonight. Call 911 if anything seems off." Somewhat reassured, I went back inside, double-checking the locks before returning to my bedroom. Sleep seemed impossible, so I opened my laptop, intending to distract myself with work. Instead, I found myself typing Daniel Mitchell fraud into the search bar. The results made my stomach drop. Local financial news sites had already picked up the story. Mitchell Advisory Services partner under investigation. SEC probes Seattle financial advisor. High-profile investment firm faces scandal. Most articles were vague, careful not to make accusations that could lead to libel suits. But one blog, known for its financial industry gossip, was more specific. Sources close to the investigation suggest Mitchell may have misappropriated client funds for personal use, including maintaining a luxury coastal property where he allegedly conducted an extramarital affair with a junior employee. My beach house, reduced to a tawdry detail in a financial scandal. I closed the laptop, feeling suddenly ill. This wasn't what I had wanted. Yes, I had sought justice, accountability, but not this public implosion that would inevitably splash back on me, too. Morning brought no clarity, just the persistent anxiety that had followed me into fitful dreams. Zoe made coffee while I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Martin and a text asking me to call him urgently. "What's happened?" I asked when he answered. "Daniel's gone," Martin said without preamble. "What do you mean, gone?" "He didn't show up for a scheduled interview with the SEC investigators yesterday afternoon. His apartment is empty. Clothes gone, passport missing. His bank reported a large cash withdrawal 2 days ago, just before his accounts were frozen." I sank onto a kitchen stool, processing this news. "He's fled." "It appears so. Rebecca, this escalates everything. Flight suggests guilt in the eyes of investigators. The SEC is now working with FBI Financial Crimes Division." My mind raced. Did he leave the country? Unknown at this point. But listen, there's something else. Before he disappeared, Daniel filed an emergency motion contesting the beach house ownership. It's baseless, especially now, but it shows his state of mind. He's still fixated on taking... "What's yours?" "Let him try," I said, a new determination settling over me. "The house is mine. The deed is clear." After we hung up, I told Zoe about Daniel's disappearance. She looked grim. "This is bad, Becca. Men like Daniel, when they're desperate..." "I know," I cut her off, not wanting to imagine what Daniel might do in his current state. But what choice do I have? Hide forever? Let him intimidate me out of my own property? Zoe squeezed my hand. "No, we stand our ground. Together." The next few days passed in a strange limbo. I worked remotely, took long walks on the beach, and tried to adjust to my new reality. News of Daniel's disappearance made the financial press, then the local news. Reporters called, but Martin fielded their inquiries, allowing me to maintain my privacy. 4 days after Daniel vanished, Carol called. "Rebecca?" Her voice was uncharacteristically gentle. "I wanted you to hear this from me first. The full audit of Daniel's accounts is complete. The irregularities were substantial." I closed my eyes, already knowing what was coming. How bad? Nearly $2 million diverted from client accounts over the past 18 months, most of it in the last 6 months. "Since he started planning to leave," I murmured. "It appears so." The money funded a lavish lifestyle. Expensive. Gifts for Ms. Ward, trips, cash withdrawals. And he made a down payment on a property in Costa Rica 3 months ago. I thought about Daniel's urgent business trips, his late nights at the office. Had he been planning his escape all along? There's one more thing, Carol continued. The Hendersons' account was hit hardest, their retirement fund. There's very little left. The Hendersons, the elderly couple who'd trusted Daniel with their future. I felt physically ill. Is there any way to recover the money? I asked. The firm will make the clients whole, Carol assured me. It's our responsibility, regardless of Daniel's actions. But Rebecca, this goes beyond professional misconduct. This is criminal fraud. There will be charges, extradition requests if he's left the country. After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence, trying to reconcile this new information with the man I'd married. Had there always been this darkness in him, this capacity for calculated harm? Had I been blind to it? Or had it developed gradually, a moral corruption that grew alongside his ambition? I was still sitting there when my phone rang again, an unknown number. Hello? Silence, then a familiar voice. Rebecca. Daniel. My heart raced as I gestured frantically to Zoe, mouthing, "It's him," as I put the phone on speaker. Daniel? I kept my voice steady. Where are you? Does it matter? He sounded strange, detached, almost dreamy. I'm gone. The life I built is gone. You can still make this right, I said carefully. Come back, cooperate with the investigators. He laughed, a hollow sound that raised the hair on my arms. Make it right? How exactly do I do that? Go to prison for 15 years? Lose my licenses, my reputation, everything I've worked for? You lost those things when you decided to steal from your clients, I said, more harshly than I intended. Such black and white thinking, Rebecca. Always your weakness. His voice hardened. You know what I've realized? None of this would have happened if you hadn't been so rigid, so judgmental. If you'd just looked the other way about Alexis. Don't you dare blame me for your choices, I cut in, anger rising. You stole money, Daniel. You betrayed people who trusted you. That's on you, not me. Silence stretched between us. Zoe had moved to the landline, whispering urgently to someone. The police, I assumed, trying to trace the call. Why are you calling? I finally asked. What do you want? To say goodbye properly, he said, his voice softening. And to let you know that I left you a gift. At the beach house. Consider it my parting gesture. A chill ran through me. What gift? Daniel, what have you done? Nothing yet, he said enigmatically. But you might want to check the garage, the east wall, behind the tool cabinet. The call ended abruptly. Zoe and I stared at each other in alarm. Police are on their way, she said. They say don't touch anything. Don't go looking for whatever he's talking about. But curiosity and fear drove me toward the garage, Zoe, following reluctantly. The tool cabinet stood against the east wall, exactly where it had always been. Nothing seemed out of place. We should wait for the police, Zoe insisted. She was right, but something compelled me forward. I pulled the cabinet away from the wall carefully, revealing nothing unusual, just the standard garage wall with electrical outlets. There's nothing here, I said, relieved and confused. Then I noticed it. A small section of baseboard that didn't quite match the rest. Kneeling down, I could see it wasn't attached properly. Despite Zoe's protests, I pried it loose. Behind it was a small cavity carved into the wall, and inside that cavity, a USB drive. The police arrived minutes later, taking the drive as potential evidence. They swept the house for other hidden items or possible threats, but found nothing. The officer in charge, a steady woman named Detective Reyes, took my statement about Daniel's call. "We'll examine the contents of the drive," she assured me. "In the meantime, I'd recommend you stay elsewhere for a few days, just until we can be certain the property is secure." I shook my head firmly. "This is my home. I'm not leaving because of Daniel's mind games." Detective Reyes didn't press the issue, but she increased the patrol schedule for the area and gave me her direct number. "Call anytime, day or night, if anything seems off." After the police left, Zoe tried again to convince me to return to Seattle with her. "Think about it, Becca. Daniel's unhinged, facing serious charges, and he knows exactly where you are." "That's precisely why I'm staying," I argued. "If I leave, he wins. He drives me from my own property, the very thing he tried to do legally and failed." Zoe threw up her hands in frustration. "This isn't about winning anymore. It's about your safety." "I'll be careful," I promised. "Security system on, doors locked, police on speed dial. Besides, he's probably halfway to Costa Rica by now." She didn't look convinced, but eventually relented, agreeing to stay one more night before returning to the city for work commitments. That evening, Detective Reyes called with an update. "Ms. Mitchell, our tech team has examined the USB drive. It contains financial documents, transfers, account details, what appears to be evidence of Mr. Mitchell's misappropriation of funds." "He left evidence against himself?" I asked, confused. "It appears so. But there's more. Emails suggesting that the initial idea came from someone else at the firm. We're investigating further." After we hung up, I tried to make sense of this new development. Why would Daniel leave evidence of his own crimes? Was it some twisted attempt at redemption? Or was there something else going on, something I was missing? My phone rang again. Alexis this time. "Have they found it?" she asked without greeting. "Found what?" "The USB drive. Daniel told me he left it for you at the beach house." I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "The police have it. How did you know about it?" "Because I helped him compile the contents," she admitted. "Rebecca, there's so much more to this than you know. Daniel wasn't acting alone." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "The financial scheme. It wasn't his idea. He was following orders, moving money for someone higher up at the firm. When the investigation started, they decided he would be the fall guy. Alexis, if you know something, you need to tell the authorities." "I can't." Her voice cracked. "It's not safe. But the evidence is on that drive, all of it. Daniel wanted you to have it as, I don't know, his way of making amends, I guess." "Where is he now?" I asked. "I don't know," she answered, too quickly to be convincing. "Alexis, helping him hide will only make things worse for you." "I'm not," she insisted. "I haven't seen him since that day at Carol's office. But Rebecca, be careful. The people involved in this, they're dangerous. That's why I warned you before." After she hung up, I relayed the conversation to Detective Reyes, who promised to look into Alexis's claims. Meanwhile, Zoe made dinner, the normalcy of the activity a strange counterpoint to the surreal developments of the day. "Do you believe her?" Zoe asked as we ate. "About Daniel being set up?" I considered the question carefully. I believe he was involved in something bigger than an affair and some misappropriated funds. But being the fall guy? That seems convenient. Especially coming from his girlfriend, Zoe pointed out. Ex-girlfriend, I corrected. She seemed genuinely frightened, Zoe. And if what she's saying is true, then this is even more reason for you to leave the beach house, she finished. If there are powerful people involved who think you might have damaging evidence, you're not safe. Here, I knew she was right, but something kept me rooted to the beach house. Maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe a deeper instinct that running wouldn't solve anything. If Daniel had left me evidence, he must have had a reason. Understanding that, Reason felt important. Vital, even. That night, I dreamed of the ocean rising, waves crashing against the beach house until it broke apart, carrying me away on a tide of secrets and lies. I woke in the dark, heart pounding, to the sound of breaking glass. Someone was in the house. I froze, straining to listen. Footsteps, muffled but distinct, moved through the living room below. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone, dialing 911 as I slipped out of bed and moved to the bedroom door. 911, what's your emergency? I whispered my situation and address, then crept to Zoe's room, shaking her awake and pressing my finger to my lips in warning. Her eyes widened in understanding as I showed her my phone, the call still connected. Together, we barricaded ourselves in her room, pushing a dresser against the door as we waited for help to arrive. Below, the footsteps continued, methodical and searching, drawers opening, furniture moving. They're looking for something, Zoe breathed against my ear. The USB drive, I thought. They don't know the police have it. A board creaked on the stairs. The intruder was coming up. Zoe's eyes met mine in the dimness, wide with fear. I gestured toward the ensuite bathroom, mouthing, "Hide." She nodded, slipping silently across the floor as I pressed myself against the wall beside the barricaded door. My phone vibrated softly in my palm, a text from the 911 dispatcher. "Officers 3 minutes out. Stay hidden." 3 minutes. It might as well have been 3 hours with someone methodically searching the house, getting closer by the second. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs, pausing as if considering which room to check first. "Please go to the master bedroom." I prayed silently. Let them search there while help arrives. But the footsteps moved directly toward our door, the handle turning quietly. When it didn't open, there was a moment of stillness, then a shoulder against the wood, testing the barricade. Another push, harder this time. The dresser scraped slightly against the floor. I held my breath, heart hammering so loudly I was certain it could be heard through the door. "I know you're in there, Rebecca." The voice froze me in place. Not Daniel. Not some anonymous enforcer sent to retrieve evidence. "Carol. Open the door," she continued, her familiar voice disturbingly calm. "We need to talk." My mind raced. Carol? The senior partner who'd helped expose Daniel's fraud? Who'd seemingly been on my side from the beginning? "The police are on their way," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "You should leave." A soft laugh from the other side of the door. "I suspected Daniel had given you something. When the police found that USB drive, I knew I had to act quickly." "Why?" I demanded. "You helped expose him." "I contained him," she corrected. This was supposed to be a simple embezzlement case with a clear fall guy, but Daniel got greedy, got sloppy, and now he's left evidence that could implicate others. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Alexis had been telling the truth. "You're the one," I said. "The one who orchestrated the whole thing." "Not alone," Carol admitted. "But yes, I've been managing certain financial arrangements for years. Daniel was useful until he wasn't. Rather like your beach house was useful to him." Another push against the door, the dresser sliding another inch. From the bathroom, I heard Zoe's sharp intake of breath. "The police will be here any minute," I warned. "Which is why I need to find anything else Daniel might have left," Carol replied. "Stand aside, Rebecca. I've got nothing against you personally. This is just business." Just business. The casual dismissal of ethics, of law, of basic human decency. It ignited something in me. All the hurt and betrayal of the past weeks crystallized into a white-hot anger. "You're not getting away with this," I said, my voice stronger now. "Daniel's evidence is already with the police. They know about the wider scheme." A hesitation on the other side of the door. "You're bluffing." Detective Reyes called me this afternoon. They're looking at everyone in the firm now, not just Daniel." The silence that followed told me my gamble had hit the mark. Then, from outside, the blessed sound of sirens approaching. Carol swore under her breath. This isn't over. Footsteps retreated down the hall, down the stairs. I stayed frozen in place until I heard the sound of a car engine starting, tires on gravel. Zoe, I called softly. She's gone. Zoe emerged from the bathroom, pale but composed. That was Carol? Your husband's boss, Carol? I nodded, still processing the revelation myself. She was behind it all, using Daniel to move money, probably for years. Flashing lights appeared outside the windows as police cars pulled into the driveway. We pushed the dresser away from the door and went downstairs to meet them, explaining what had happened. Detective Reyes arrived minutes later, taking our statements with professional efficiency. We've put out an APB for Carol Winters, she assured us. Her involvement changes everything about this case. Did you really find evidence against her on the USB drive? Zoe asked, once the detective had stepped away to coordinate with her officers. I had no idea, I admitted, but it was the only card I had to play. Zoe shook her head in wonder. Quick thinking. You might have saved our lives. As dawn broke over the ocean, casting long golden rays across the beach, Detective Reyes returned with news. We caught Ms. Winters at a private airfield 20 miles from here. She was attempting to charter a flight to Mexico. The relief was so profound I had to sit down. And Daniel? Any sign of him? Not yet, Reyes said. But with Winters in custody, we may get information that helps us locate him. The next few days passed in a blur of police interviews, meetings with federal investigators, and long conversations with Martin about the legal implications of what had been uncovered. It's beyond anything I imagined, Martin said during our latest call. Carol Winters was running a sophisticated money laundering operation through the firm. Daniel was just one of several associates moving funds through client accounts. And the Hendersons? The other clients who lost money? The firm's insurance will cover their losses, he assured me. And the FBI has already located some of the diverted funds in offshore accounts. There's a good chance of recovery. I was sitting on the beach house deck, watching the waves as evening approached, when my phone rang. An unfamiliar international number. Hello? Rebecca. Daniel's voice, distant but unmistakable. I sat up straight. Where are you? Somewhere they can't extradite me easily, he replied. I heard they arrested Carol. Yes, the evidence you left helped expose the whole operation. A long silence then. Good. That was the point. She set me up, Rebecca, used me, then arranged for me to take the fall when things got too hot. That doesn't excuse what you did, I reminded him. The affair, the lies, trying to take my beach house. No, he agreed quietly. Nothing excuses those things. But I want you to know that the financial fraud, that wasn't all me. I got pulled into something that was already happening. And by the time I realized how deep it went, I was trapped. I let his words sink in, trying to separate truth from self-serving justification. Why call me now? What do you want? To apologize, he said, surprising me. Not for getting caught, but for the hurt I caused you. For betraying the trust we had. You deserved better. Yes, I agreed. I did. The beach house is yours, he continued. It always was. I got lost somewhere along the way. Started believing I was entitled to more, to everything. I thought about the man I'd married, ambitious but principled, or so I'd believed. Had that person ever really existed? Or had he always been a carefully constructed facade? Where is Alexis? I asked. Safe, he answered. Away from all this. She was another pawn, Rebecca. Carol deliberately placed her as my assistant, encouraged the relationship. Another way to control me. That doesn't absolve you of responsibility. No, he sighed. Nothing does. I made my choices. Now I have to live with them. The line crackled with static, thousands of miles between us in more ways than one. Do you remember when we first saw the beach house? He asked suddenly. You said it felt like home before we even walked through the door. The memory surfaced. A sunny afternoon, the real estate agent chatting with Daniel while I stood transfixed by the view, feeling an immediate connection to the place. I remember, I said softly. I never felt that, he admitted. For me, it was just another asset, another symbol of success. I think that was the problem with a lot of things in my life, including our marriage. The candor caught me off guard. Was this genuine insight, or another manipulation? Why are you telling me this now? Because I might not get another chance, he said. The FBI is closing in. I don't expect to stay free much longer. I should have felt satisfaction at this news, but instead found only a complicated sadness. What will you do? Negotiate, if possible. The evidence I gathered against Carol and the others might be worth something in a plea deal. He paused. Rebecca, there's something else you should know. Another USB drive hidden in the boat shed, behind the life jacket storage box. More evidence? No, he said. Something personal. For you. After we hung up, I sat watching the sunset, processing the unexpected conversation. Daniel's call had left me unsettled, stirring up emotions I thought I'd put to rest. Zoe found me still on the deck an hour later, wrapped in a blanket against the evening chill. Everything okay? She asked, joining me with 2 mugs of tea. Daniel called, I said, accepting the warm mug gratefully. From somewhere overseas. She raised her eyebrows. What did he want? To apologize, apparently, and to tell me about another USB drive hidden in the boat shed. Zoe frowned. Are you going to look for it? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to throw anything from Daniel into the ocean without looking at it. But another part is curious, she finished for me. Of course you are. It's who you are. You need answers. Closure. The next morning, with Detective Reyes on standby, I ventured out to the small shed where we kept beach equipment and the kayaks Daniel and I had once used to explore the coastline. Behind the rack of life jackets, just as he'd described, I found another small cavity in the wall. Inside was a USB drive labeled simply R. Back in the house with Reyes watching over my shoulder, I plugged it into my laptop. It contained a single video file. Daniel's face appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a hotel room. Rebecca, he began, his expression solemn. If you're watching this, you found the evidence I left against Carol and the others. By now, you know I was involved in something much bigger than an affair or some creative accounting. He ran a hand through his hair, that familiar gesture that once charmed me, now just a reminder of what we'd lost. What you don't know is why I left the evidence for you specifically. I could have gone directly to the authorities, tried to cut a deal, but I didn't trust them not to bury it. Carol has connections everywhere. Law enforcement, financial regulators. She's untouchable, or she thinks she is. He leaned closer to the camera. But you, Rebecca, you're the most tenacious, principled person I've ever known. I knew if anyone could make sure the truth came out, it would be you. Even if that truth destroyed me too. I paused the video, needing a moment. Beside me, Detective Reyes remained silent, respectful of my privacy even as she monitored the content for investigative value. When I continued the video, Daniel's tone had changed, becoming more personal. I won't ask for forgiveness. What I did to our marriage, to you, that can't be forgiven. The affair with Alexis began as part of Carol's control mechanism, but I'm not hiding behind that excuse. I made choices that hurt you deeply, and nothing can undo that damage. He looked away from the camera briefly. The beach house was always special to you in a way I never understood. For you, it represented family, security, a future. For me, it became a symbol of what I thought I deserved, a place to bring Alexis, to pretend I was living a different life. His eyes returned to the camera, surprisingly clear and direct. But you know what's ironic? In trying to take the beach house from you, I ended up giving you something much more valuable. Your freedom. Freedom from a marriage that wasn't worthy of you. From a man who lost his way so completely he couldn't even recognize the damage he was doing. The video continued for another 10 minutes, Daniel explaining his involvement in Carol's financial schemes, how he'd gradually uncovered the extent of the operation, his realization that he was being positioned as the sole scapegoat. He named names, described methods, provided dates that would be valuable to investigators. But it was the final segment that affected me most deeply. "I don't know what happens next," Daniel said, looking tired now. "I've made arrangements to disappear, but realistically, that's a temporary solution at best. Eventually, this all catches up with me." He smiled slightly, a sad echo of the expression I once loved. "Take care of the beach house, Rebecca. Make it truly yours now, without the shadow of our failures hanging over it. Find happiness there, or sell it, and start fresh. Somewhere else. Just promise me you won't let what I did diminish your capacity for joy, for trust." The screen went black, the video ending abruptly. Detective Reyes cleared her throat softly. "This is significant evidence, Ms. Mitchell. The names he mentioned, the specific transactions. It corroborates what we found on the other drive." I nodded absently, still processing Daniel's unexpected transparency, the complexity of his final message to me. "Will it help reduce his sentence?" I asked. "When they find him?" Reyes considered the question carefully. "It could, yes. Cooperation is usually viewed favorably, especially in white-collar cases. But the extent of the fraud is substantial, and his flight doesn't help his case." After she left with a copy of the video, I remained at the kitchen table, staring out at the ocean. The tide was coming in, waves gradually erasing the footprints left by morning beachcombers. Nature's way of starting fresh. The weeks that followed brought one revelation after another, as the investigation into Carol Winters and Mitchell Advisory Services expanded. 5 other employees were implicated, including 2 senior partners. The scheme had been operating for nearly a decade, laundering money for clients ranging from tax evaders to suspected criminal organizations. Martin kept me updated on the legal proceedings, though I tried to maintain some distance, focusing instead on rebuilding my life. I returned to work, finding unexpected comfort in the routine, in colleagues who respected my privacy while offering quiet support. The beach house, once tainted by Daniel's betrayal, gradually reclaimed its place as my sanctuary. I redecorated, replacing furniture that carried too many memories, painting walls in colors I'd always preferred but Daniel had vetoed as too bold or unprofessional. Zoe visited regularly, as did other friends who'd given me space during the immediate aftermath, but now sought to reconnect. Slowly, the house filled with new memories, new laughter. 3 months after Daniel's call, Detective Reyes contacted me again. "We have him," she said simply. "Interpol located Mr. Mitchell in Argentina. He's being extradited to face charges." I thanked her for the information, unsure how to feel about this development. The Daniel I'd seen in that video, confessing, explaining but not excusing, was so different from the man who'd betrayed me, yet also strangely familiar. Perhaps the most honest version of himself I'd seen in years. 2 weeks later, Martin called with unexpected news. The prosecutors have offered Daniel a deal. In exchange for his testimony against Carol Winters and the others, they're reducing the charges significantly. He's looking at 5 years instead. of 20, possibly less with good behavior. He's taking it, I assume. Yes, but there's a condition he's requesting. Martin hesitated. He wants to meet with you before the formal proceedings begin. My immediate instinct was to refuse. What could possibly be gained from seeing Daniel face to face after everything that had happened? You don't have to decide right away, Martin added. Take some time to think about it. That evening, I walked along the shoreline as sunset painted the sky in dramatic oranges and pinks. The question followed me with each step. Did I want to see Daniel again? Did I need that final conversation? For my own closure? The answer came to me as I watched the sun sink below the horizon. Yes. Not for him, but for me. To look him in the eye one last time. Not as the husband who betrayed me or the financial criminal who fled justice, but simply as the man whose life had been intertwined with mine for 9 years, for better and ultimately for worse. The meeting was arranged for the following week at Martin's office, neutral territory. I arrived early, my stomach in knots despite my conviction that this was necessary. Daniel was brought in by federal agents who remained discreetly positioned outside the conference room door. He looked thinner, his once impeccable appearance now subdued in standard-issue clothing, but his eyes were clear, his gaze direct as he sat across from me. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "I almost didn't," I admitted. He nodded, accepting this. I would have understood. An awkward silence stretched between us, years of shared history now reduced to this sterile conference room encounter. "Martin says you've taken a plea deal," I finally said. "Yes, 5 years, possibility of parole after 3 with cooperation." He glanced down at his hands, then back up at me. "It's more than fair, considering what I did." "And Carol? The others?" "Trial dates are set. My testimony will be crucial, apparently." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "You were right all those years ago. I do have a gift for remembering details. Turns out it's useful when reconstructing a complex financial fraud." Despite everything, I found myself smiling slightly at the reference to an old joke between us. Early in our relationship, I'd teased him about his ability to recall the smallest details of conversations, transactions, events. "Why did you want to see me, Daniel?" I asked, bringing us back to the present. "We've said everything that needs saying." He took a deep breath. "I wanted to give you something, a final resolution to this chapter of our lives." From a manila envelope the agents had allowed him to bring, he withdrew a document and slid it across the table to me. I recognized it immediately, our divorce papers, which had been on hold during the legal proceedings against him. "I've signed everything," he explained. "No contests, no claims. Martin has reviewed it all. The beach house remains solely in your name, of course. I've also arranged for my personal assets that weren't seized to be donated to a fund for victims of financial fraud." I examined the papers, noting his signature on each marked page. "Thank you," I said, meaning it. This simple act, relinquishing any claim, any further complication, was perhaps the most genuinely thoughtful thing he'd done in years. "There's something else," he continued, withdrawing another document. "The deed to the apartment in Barcelona. Do you remember it?" I did. A charming flat in the Gothic Quarter that we'd rented during a vacation 5 years ago. Daniel had often talked about buying it as a retirement investment. "I purchased it last year," he said. "One of my better financial decisions, as it turns out. It wasn't identified in the asset seizure because it was bought through a separate LLC." He pushed the deed toward me. "I've transferred ownership to you. It's completely legal. I verified with the prosecutors. Consider it. Not compensation. Nothing could compensate for what I did, but perhaps a small step toward amends." I stared at the document, conflicted. "I can't accept this, Daniel." "Please," he insisted. "If not for yourself, then sell it and donate the proceeds to the Hendersons or another cause you believe in. Just let me do this one last thing right." After a moment's consideration, I took the deed, not yet committing to a decision about its fate. "Is that everything?" He nodded, then seemed to reconsider. "Actually, there is one more thing. A question. I've wanted to ask since that day you found us at the beach house." I tensed slightly, wary of reopening old wounds. "How did you know?" he asked. "What made you check the security footage that particular day?" The question surprised me. After everything that had happened, this detail seemed inconsequential. Yet I understood his curiosity. The precise moment when his carefully constructed deception began to unravel. "It was nothing dramatic," I told him. "Just a notification from the security app. I'd actually forgotten I had it installed until that alert came through during a meeting." Daniel absorbed this information with a nod. "A random notification. All this..." He gestured vaguely, encompassing our current situation, the legal proceedings, everything that had transpired, because of a technological coincidence. "No," I corrected him gently. "All this because of choices you made. The notification was just the moment of discovery, not the cause." He acknowledged this truth, with a slight inclination of his head. "You're right, of course. You usually are." The federal agents appeared at the door, indicating our time was nearly up. "I wish you happiness, Rebecca," Daniel said as he prepared to leave. "Real happiness, not the imitation we were living with toward the end. I hope you find some kind of peace, Daniel," I replied, surprised to realize I meant it. The anger that had sustained me through the initial betrayal had gradually transformed into something more complex. Not forgiveness exactly, but a recognition of our shared humanity, our capacity for both terrible mistakes and genuine growth. As he was led away, I remained in the conference room, looking over the divorce papers that would officially end our marriage. Not with the dramatic confrontation I'd once envisioned, but with this quiet, somewhat anticlimactic exchange of documents. Outside Martin's office, the afternoon sun illuminated the Seattle skyline. Familiar buildings where I'd built my career, my life before, and now after Daniel. The city felt different somehow, as did I. That evening, I returned to the beach house, dropping my keys on the counter with a satisfying finality. The house welcomed me with the soft sound of waves and the golden light of sunset filtering through the windows. I poured a glass of wine and stepped onto the deck, gazing out at the ocean that had witnessed the unraveling of my marriage and now bore silent witness to its official conclusion. The tide was coming in, waves washing over the shoreline in a constant rhythm of renewal. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "How did it go?" "It's done," I replied simply. Another buzz, this time an email notification. The Barcelona property transfer had been officially recorded. I would decide its fate later. Perhaps a vacation there would help me determine whether to keep it or sell it. As darkness fell, I remained on the deck, contemplating the journey of the past months. The betrayal that had initially seemed like the end of everything had instead become a painful but necessary transition to something new. The beach house, once a symbol of what I'd lost, had transformed into a testament to what I'd reclaimed: my independence, my strength, my capacity to rebuild after devastation. Tomorrow, I would file the signed divorce papers. Next week, I would begin the renovations I'd been planning for the kitchen. In the spring, I might plant the garden I'd always wanted but Daniel had dismissed as too much maintenance. Small steps toward a future I was now free to shape entirely on my own terms. I raised my glass to the night sky, to the endless ocean, to myself. "To new beginnings," I whispered. The waves answered with their constant, reassuring rhythm, a tss, reminder that even after the most violent storms, the tide always returns to its natural balance. And so, gradually, inevitably, do we. 6 months later, I stood in the newly renovated kitchen of my beach house, preparing dinner for the small gathering on my deck. Through the windows, I could see Zoe arranging flowers on the outdoor table, while her husband, Mark, helped my colleague James set up the grill. The dinner party, my first since the divorce was finalized, felt like a milestone, a deliberate celebration of this new chapter in my life. "Need any help in here?" Lisa, my assistant and now friend, appeared in the doorway with an opened bottle of wine. "Just about finished," I assured her, adding final touches to the appetizer platter. "Could you refill everyone's glasses, though?" As Lisa headed back outside, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Carol Winters found guilty on all counts in financial fraud case. I set down my knife, taking a moment to absorb this news. Carol's trial had been the final major legal proceeding connected to the Mitchell Advisory Services scandal. Daniel had testified 3 months ago, his detailed account of the firm's operations proving crucial to the prosecution's case. According to Martin, who'd kept me updated despite my decreasing interest in the proceedings, Daniel had been a model witness, forthright, thorough, unflinching even when his own actions were scrutinized. The judge had acknowledged his cooperation in a formal note that would potentially influence his parole hearing when the time came. I hadn't spoken to Daniel since our meeting in Martin's office, though he'd sent one letter, a simple note thanking me for agreeing to see him and expressing hope that I was finding peace at the beach house. I hadn't replied, not out of lingering anger, but because some chapters are better left closed. "Everything okay?" Zoe asked, coming in to find me staring at my phone. I showed her the news alert. Carol Winters was convicted, 20 years from the sound of it. Zoe nodded approvingly. "Good. After what she orchestrated, she deserves every minute." "Agreed," I said, returning to my preparation. "Strange. To think it's finally over. All of it." "Is it?" Zoe asked gently. "Over, I mean." I considered the question as I arranged sliced baguette on a serving board. "The legal part is, the rest." I shrugged. "I don't think about him much anymore. That feels like progress." It was true. The sharp pain of betrayal had gradually dulled to an occasional melancholy, a recognition of what had been lost but no longer a defining feature of my daily existence. I had moved forward, focusing on work, on friendships, on transforming the beach house into a true reflection of myself, rather than a compromise between two people. "You seem happy," Zoe observed. "More yourself than you've been in years, actually." I smiled, recognizing the truth in her assessment. "I am. It's not perfect. I still have moments of anger or sadness, but mostly, I feel liberated." "To liberation, then." Zoe raised her wine glass in a toast. "And to good friends who stand by you through the worst times," I added, clinking my glass against hers. As we carried the food outside to our waiting guests, I paused for a moment, taking in the scene. Friends gathered on my deck, the ocean stretching endlessly beyond, the beach house standing solid and welcoming behind us. This place that had once been the site of my husband's betrayal had been reclaimed, transformed through my own efforts into a sanctuary, a home that was truly mine in every sense. James caught my eye from across the deck, raising his glass with a warm smile. We'd been having coffee occasionally, sometimes dinner. Nothing serious yet, but a promising connection that had developed naturally over the past few months. Whether it evolved into something more, or remained a friendship, I was approaching it with an openness and honesty I'd been missing in the final years of my marriage. As the evening progressed, filled with conversation and laughter, I found myself stepping away briefly to stand at the deck railing, looking out at the moonlight shimmering on the water. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, from that shocking security notification to the complete reconstruction of my life. The pain had been real, the challenges substantial, but standing here now, I wouldn't change what had happened. Daniel's betrayal had ultimately given me something unexpected, the opportunity to discover my own strength, to rebuild my life on my terms, to reclaim not just the beach house, but myself. The tide was coming in, waves washing away the days, footprints from the sand. Tomorrow, the beach would be fresh again, unmarked, ready for new patterns to be traced upon its surface. Just like my life. I heard my name called and turned to rejoin my friends, leaving the past where it belonged, acknowledged but no longer defining, a closed chapter in a story that continued to unfold in ways I was only beginning to discover. The beach house remained, now truly mine in every sense, a testament not to what had been lost, but to what had been found in the aftermath of betrayal, resilience, independence, and the quiet joy of creating a life that belonged wholly to me. "Coming!" I called, moving back toward the light and laughter of the gathering, toward the future I was building one careful, deliberate choice at a time. Behind me, the ocean continued its eternal rhythm, waves breaking and receding, breaking and receding. Nature's reminder that even after the most devastating storms, calm returns, healing happens, and life goes on. Not the same as before, but often stronger, deeper, and more authentic for having weathered the tempest. My beach house stood firm against the coastal winds, its foundation unshaken, much like the woman I had become through this unexpected journey, from betrayal to liberation, from heartbreak to wholeness. As I rejoined my friends, raising my glass in another toast to whatever came next, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. Whatever the future held, I would face it on my own terms, in my own house, with the quiet confidence of someone who had discovered her own strength in the most challenging of circumstances, and that perhaps was the most valuable deed of all. The sunrise painted the horizon in shades of pink and gold as I sipped my morning coffee on the deck. 2 years had passed since that fateful day when a security notification changed everything. The beach house, once a symbol of betrayal, had become my sanctuary, my triumph, my home in the truest sense. I set my mug down on the railing and checked my watch. The moving truck would arrive in an hour, not to take my things away, but to bring new furniture for the guest bedroom. Life had a way of coming full circle in unexpected ways. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "On my way with breakfast. Don't start packing without me." I smiled, typing back a quick response. What had begun as casual coffee dates had blossomed into something I hadn't expected to find again. Trust, partnership, joy. James understood my boundaries, respected my independence, and most importantly, loved the beach house as much as I did. The sound of a car in the driveway drew my attention, too early for James or the movers. I walked through the house, curiosity rather than fear guiding my steps. Through the front window, I spotted a sleek black sedan I didn't recognize. The driver's door opened, and a woman emerged, Alexis. I hadn't seen her since the trial, where we'd both testified against Carol. Her hair was shorter now, her posture more confident as she approached the door. "Rebecca," she said when I opened it. "I hope it's okay that I stopped by. I found your address in the court records." "It's fine," I assured her, genuinely pleased to see her looking well. "Come in." She followed me to the kitchen, accepting my offer of coffee with a grateful smile. "You look good," I observed. "Life treating you better these days?" "Much," she confirmed. "I finished my MBA last month, starting a new job in San Francisco next week." "Congratulations, that's wonderful." Alexis glanced around the kitchen, taking in the changes I'd made, new cabinets, bright artwork, the absence of any trace of the life I'd shared with Daniel. "I wanted to thank you," she said finally, "for seeing through Daniel's manipulation, for helping me see it too, for being decent to me when you had every reason not to be." "We were both deceived," I reminded her. "In different ways, but still." She nodded, then reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. "I also came to give you this. Daniel asked me to deliver it when I told him I was moving to California." I hesitated before taking it. You're in contact with him? Occasionally. Prison letters, mostly. She sipped her coffee. He's changed, Rebecca. Whether it's genuine or just circumstantial, I can't say for sure, but he's different. I turned the envelope over in my hands, not yet ready to open it. How much longer does he have? With good behavior, he could be out next year. He's been teaching financial literacy to other inmates, if you can believe it. I could, actually. Daniel had always been an excellent teacher when he chose to... But were you... I couldn't quite formulate the question. Alexis understood anyway. Getting back together with him? No, that chapter is closed for me too. But forgiveness has been healing for both of us. After she left, I sat on the deck again, Daniel's unopened letter beside me. The ocean stretched out before me, constant yet ever-changing, like life itself. Finally, I opened the envelope. Inside was a single page in Daniel's familiar handwriting. Rebecca, I hope this letter finds you well and happy. I've thought often of our last conversation and wanted to express my gratitude for the dignity you showed that day and throughout the legal proceedings. My time here has afforded me ample opportunity for reflection. I now understand that what I considered love for Alexis was actually an escape from responsibilities, from the growing disconnect in our marriage, from my own ethical failures. I've enclosed something I hope brings closure rather than opens old wounds. When I purchased the Barcelona apartment, I also set up a trust in your name. The rental income has been accumulating, untouched by the asset seizures due to the timing and legal structure. Martin has the details if you wish to claim it. My request is simple. Use it for something meaningful. Perhaps a scholarship for financial fraud victims, or whatever cause speaks to your heart. I ask for nothing in return. Not forgiveness, not contact, not even acknowledgement that you received this letter. The beach house was always your true home in a way I never understood. I'm glad it remains yours, where it belongs. Wishing you every happiness, Daniel. I folded the letter carefully, sliding it back into the envelope. The emotions it stirred were complex but no longer painful. A melancholy acknowledgement of what was lost, tempered by appreciation for the life I'd built from the ashes. James's car pulled into the driveway, and I tucked the letter away. Tomorrow, I would call Martin about the trust. Today belonged to the present, to the future. As James approached with a bakery box and his infectious smile, I felt a surge of gratitude for this unexpected path my life had taken. The beach house stood solid behind me. The ocean stretched endless. Before me and between them, I had found my place, uniquely, wholly mine. Ready for a busy day? James asked, leaning in for a quick kiss. I smiled, taking his free hand in mine. Ready for everything. Up next, you've got 2 more standout. Stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.